Okay, and the recording's on, so I'm going to open Monday, April 6th, Board of Selectmen meeting. In attendance on the call is me. This is the first Selectwoman, Brenda Kupchik, Selectman Tom Flynn, and Selectwoman Nancy Lefkowitz. So call to order, and can we please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I'm going to, I guess, lead the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. First one is, item number 3. Can you all hear me all right?
Yes.
I can.
Okay, good. First one is the tax collector to hear and consider and approve an abatement of taxes for a portion of the 2018 grand list taxes due, 21-23 and 63 and 65 Durrell Drive in the total amount of $6,333.81. Do I have a motion?
This is Nancy Lefkowitz. I'll move.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
No for me, Nancy.
None for me, Tom.
I don't see it. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries. Item number 4, acting DPW director requires RTM approval to hear and consider the following resolution as recommended by the acting DPW Public Works director. Resolved, and I'm going to, if someone...
I will move to waive the reading.
Thank you.
Second.
I'm having trouble pulling up the agenda items, so I'm going to need one moment, 30 seconds.
Okay, that's okay.
But I'll waive the reading. I do remember that it was...
So just to, for the public's edification, these items, all the backup information is on the town website for any members of the public who would like to read the entire item. And this is regarding town grant to Aquarian Water Company of Connecticut and an easement. And all the language is on there.
Brenda, I think, or Madam First Selectwoman, I think for purposes of doing this on the phone and the fact that it's got to be done this way, I think we can't waive readings moving forward. I think we probably need to read them to make sure they go into the minutes correctly. That's just... I think that's the way we should do it. Nancy, if you want to weigh in, I think that anyone reading it, probably all listening in, can look at this up online and see it right there, and it would save us time as well to be able to move through the items on the agenda, and then we could have time to discuss each item. Okay.
I mean, I made the motion with that in mind, so...
Right.
But... I guess.
I mean, we're in different circumstances, obviously, and everything is posted on our website so people can read them. So, any discussion on this item?
I'm here, Brian Carey, if you have any questions regarding this.
Thank you. Thank you, Brian.
So, Brian, this is just the easement for the water company, correct?
So basically on Rugby Road over to Beaumont Road, there's an issue with the main, and they want to run it through Rugby Park, which would require a easement from the town. There's actually a section of Rugby Park where there's a bunch of scrubby area with a bunch of dead trees. The easement would actually go through that area, so the water company would actually be doing us a favor by removing a lot of the dead trees that need to come down when they put the main in. So we saw this as a benefit for the residents who have had water issues in that area, but also for the town because they would be performing work that would otherwise need to be performed by the town.
Got it.
And I guess as with the rest of the items, I can ask my question now, but it will pertain. I would just want to make sure that none, again, all the questions that we ask, as per usual, that the contracts have been looked at, that it's all.
Nancy faded out there. I don't know if she got disconnected or something.
Nancy, are you there? Nancy?
Uh-oh.
Nance? Is Jim, are you on still?
I am.
Can you see from where you are if something happened? Is Nancy on, or does she need some help, or?
I can reach out to her. I can't see anything, but I can try calling her on a separate line.
Yeah, I don't know if she called in on a cell phone or a landline, but
It sounded like a cell phone, or she was on speakerphone, or maybe her computer. I'm not sure. The computers are challenged these days in terms of bandwidth.
Yeah, everybody's doing this.
And Dave is online. I don't know if he can troubleshoot this.
Sorry, it's Nancy. I was kicked off the line.
Oh.
But
okay,
could have been a technical problem at home. I don't know. Sorry if I don't know.
That's okay. You can hear us okay, though?
I can hear you. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Okay. All right, good. So Brian was just I don't know if you heard what he was talking about, this item number 4 about the easement for the water company. They have to repair. Brian, can you repeat it for her?
I got cut off just to see. I heard you. I did hear you, and then I responded by saying, as the case with all of. Did I cut you off, Brian?
No.
As the case with anything on the agenda, I think just for the public, people will want to understand in context of where we are right now, that any money that we're signing on to or things that we're agreeing to, that either it's a priority or it's been looked at or it's just something that's already been in discussion, or so that we're not taking on any new business or anything that's potentially controversial given where we're at and where our focus is as a town.
No, the goal is for Aquarian to begin replacing this water main towards the middle of the summer, so this is a pressing issue for them as well as us.
Okay. Thank you.
Hey, Brian, is this, Brian, it's Tom.
Yep.
They're going to get rid of all this scrub, they're going to lay this pipe down, and then they're going to cover it up so the pipe won't be exposed? Is that what's going to happen here?
Correct. They wouldn't plant trees over a main, though, so it will.
Right.
We've had a lot of complaints about this area too from the adjacent neighbors in the past because it's a bit unsightly. So there shouldn't be any issues with the neighbors.
Are the neighbors? Yeah, I was going to ask. Are the neighbors, since there's not going to be trees and anything? I get it. It's going to be unsightly and it's going to be cleaned up. The neighbors have any issues with privacy or anything, or they know this is going on? This is all going to be cleaned up and they're fine with it.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you. And all the relevant documents related to this from a legal perspective, Mr. Baldwin, you've reviewed all of them, and they're fine, and we don't have any issues or concerns either insurance-wise or legal-wise with this?
That's correct. It's all been vetted by counsel.
Okay. I'm all set, Mrs. First Selectman.
As am I.
Madam
Thank
First
you,
Selectman.
Nancy.
Okay, very good. Okay, so all right. So that's the end of the discussion. And may I have a motion to approve?
This is Nancy. I'll move to approve the
Thank
item.
you,
Tom,
Nancy.
second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. All right, so I just want to interject that I had a lot of this stuff put on because I thought we could move through it in an expeditious way, especially the remediation items, so that we could have, if it's safe, obviously, have those sites remediated, especially our school sites that need it, while the kids weren't there. And I just want to make sure we are staying on target and moving through, because we do have a emergency operations meeting, and I have to prepare for at 3:30. So for the meeting, and I also want to be able to have a little time at the end to provide an update to you both, just a cursory update on what we're doing with a COVID basic update. So I just wanted to just mention that.
So in light of that, and I know, Tom, you're concerned about the public, and I totally respect and appreciate that and want to make sure that everyone feels that that the public certainly has the information. But given what Brenda has just shared and that there aren't new items, does it make sense for us, and I'm just proposing this, not making it as a motion, to group these items together? Or given that the town attorney, that Mr. Baldwin has said that council has looked things over, is there a reason that we can't lump them into one
couple things.
voting
Well,
item?
I just want to say that, I mean, I don't know, we'll let the town attorney weigh in, but I think we can all assume that our town attorney has reviewed everything, obviously, and all of these items, like, for example, the neighbors and things, that's all been obviously checked into, and we've done all that due diligence. So I don't know, Jim, can we do that, or would you like to?
You're asking whether you can consider all agenda items at one time?
I would suggest items 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, because they're under the DPW, and it looks like from what I've read and from that it's pump station, it's things that have come before us.
Yeah,
right.
I
previously.
Pump station.
For the items that are items that we have approved, but yet these are contracts, I have no problem putting them together and then asking Mr. Baldwin on the record that the legality, that the legalese of these contracts are appropriate, that they've been all reviewed and signed off on by council, that our same question regarding the bonds, that they've all been vetted and we don't have any issues with performance bonds or the like, knowing that they haven't been issued yet, but that they've been reviewed and certified, because these are just contracts relative to positions that we've already taken, projects that have already been approved, and that these contracts are within the funding limits that we've approved for these projects. I'd like to know that as well. And then I have no problem grouping all of those together for approval.
So
that's my take on it.
This is Town Attorney Jim Baldwin. I can attest to the fact that all these agreements before you have been fully vetted by council, as well as bond counsel with respect to the bond resolutions, of course. But insofar as these agenda items are listed, I think that it would be best to approve them
one by one.
Individually, one by one. You can waive the reading if you so choose, and just give a brief summary of what it is for the record. But I think that they need to be acted on independently.
Okay.
Mr. Baldwin, do you know whether all these items are they within the budgeted amounts that this board has previously approved and the other town bodies have approved? Do you know that?
Yes, Mr. Flynn, that's been confirmed through all the departments.
And also, if you read your agenda, it says requires Board of Finance and RTM approval.
Yep.
So these are all going to go through those as well.
So to be clear, the bonding resolutions numbers 5 and 6 are being presented in order to have those agreements 7, 8, and 9 in particular go forward. But the funding for those items 7, 8, and 9 are dependent upon the bonding resolutions above them.
Right. So there are the bonding resolutions that are for approval, and then there's the contracts below them that support the bonding resolutions, correct?
That's correct. They flow from the bonding resolutions.
So I'm happy to vote on these items individually and approve them moving forward. I think the other items we should discuss just a little bit because I don't know that they've been before us before, and I have questions on the funding. That's it.
Okay, so let's go back to, I'm just scrolling on my computer, sorry. 5, okay, so that's where we are. Finance Department, to hear and consider and act upon the following bond resolution. This is $6,245,000 for the costs associated with construction of the Eastern Turnpike Pump Station and force main replacement, authorizing the issue of the bonds for that. Do I have a motion? We have a motion already on the floor, or do we have a motion on the floor for this?
I'll make the motion on this one.
Okay, any discussion?
None for me.
Based on Mr. Baldwin's comments previously, I'm fine on this item.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Item number 6. Finance Department requires Board of Finance and RTM approval to hear and consider and act upon the following bond resolution supplemental resolution consisting of one page, a copy of which is attached, stipulating the debt service of the Eastern Turnpike Pump Station force main replacement bonds as it becomes due shall be paid by the WPCA from its own funds, and the obligation of the WPCA shall be set forth in a memorandum of understanding with the town satisfactory to the first selectman. Do I have a motion?
This is Nancy. I'll move.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Item number 7. Acting DPW Director to hear and consider and authorize the purchasing authority to enter into a proposed contract with Kovix Construction Corporation, Oxford, Connecticut, for the force main replacement of the Easton Pump Station and all necessary to perform force main replacement of the Easton Turnpike Pump Station as detailed in bid 2020-51 in the amount not to exceed $3,359,490, subject to bond approval by the Board of Finance and RTM. Do I have a motion?
I'll move. This is Nancy.
Second, Tom.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay. Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Item number 8, Acting DPW Director to hear and consider and authorize the purchasing authority to enter into a proposed contract with the True Blue Environmental, Wallingford, Connecticut, for the pump station replacement at the Eastern Turnpike Station to provide all labor, equipment, and all necessary to perform pump station as detailed in bid 2020-51 in the amount not to exceed $1,999,382, subject to bond approval by the Board of Finance and RTM. Do I have a motion?
This is Nancy. I'll move it. I'll move
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. I'm sorry, I didn't announce in the beginning that Prue is on the line, who does our minutes, and she is taking them.
Hi, Prue.
So that motion passes. Item number 9. To hear and consider and authorize the purchasing authority to execute an amendment with the Wright Pierce for construction administrative services for the force main replacement and replacement of the Easton Pump Station, bid number 2020-51, in the amount not to exceed $349,700, subject to bond approval by the Board of Finance and RTM. Do I have a motion?
This is Nancy. I will move the item.
I will second it.
Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries.
Madam First Selectman, it's Brian Carey. Can I just noticed something in the minutes in the agenda though. The True Blue items 7 and 8, the contractors are backwards. So Kovacs should be for item 8 and True Blue should be for item 7.
Oh, interesting.
So you mean the contractors were just switched out from item number
All of
7?
that's correct. It's just they're
Mr.
Yeah.
Baldwin, what's the best way to rectify this as expeditiously as possible, if you don't mind?
We can call it a Scrivener's error, but I think you have to just make it clear on the record that what Mr. Carey just described is accurate, and that it was just the name of the companies were switched, but the items that you approved are to remain approved, if that's your pleasure.
I think.
So what would we do? Like an amendment? Would we make an amendment? How do we do it, Jim?
I think that the easiest way to do it is to call it a Scrivener's error, but it may be just as quick to reconsider each item with that caveat stated in the amendment.
Okay,
I make
so
a motion to amend number 7. Item agenda number 7.
Yeah, I think you have to rescind. Sorry. You have to rescind your earlier vote.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excuse me, this is Gerald Foley. I'm calling you on those 2 items. I'm just re-looking at them. I think they're correct as submitted.
Okay then.
Gerald, the dollars and the description are accurate.
Yeah, I have the copy of the bid sheet. So I have Kovacs for contract number 1 and the amount that's listed. And then for the second one, for contract number 2, I have True Blue. And that's the correct amount there. So I believe that, I have the 2 items in front of me, and that's, so Kovacs should have been for,
here's what I think you should do, if I can make a recommendation. Can you and Mr. Carey huddle telephonically over the next few minutes? Make sure you're on the same page. We'll go on to the next items, and then we'll come back to you and ask you to clarify that you're in agreement or what have you, and then we can change it. Does that make sense?
I concur.
Madam First Selectwoman, is that okay?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. Then we can go on to item number 10, I guess.
Okay. Item number 10. To hear and consider and authorize the purchasing authority to enter into a proposed contract with Silver Petrocelli and Associates for the architectural design service for the construction of the new Combined Emergency Communication, ECC, RSP 2020-32 in the amount not to exceed $52,200. Funding for this contract is available in the account. I'm sorry, my glasses are clouding up because I have a face mask on. Oh, good grief. All right. Let's see. Okay, do I have a motion?
I'll move the item.
I'll second it.
Okay.
I just want to confirm that this the budget for this has already been approved, and this is in line with the budget. Is that, Mr. Baldwin, is that our understanding? Because I see it says that the account is there. I just don't remember the exact amount. That's why I'm asking the question.
Yes, it is the same amount as the amount that was previously approved for a different location of the ECC. So it's the same.
It is the same, but the location is different, but everything else is the same.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Nope.
Okay. This actually, this has been a long time coming, and a lot of effort has gone into this, and this is going to save our town money in the long run. So I'm glad we're moving this forward. Finally, it's taken quite a long time. Okay. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. That was item number 10. Okay. And we're at item number 11. To hear and consider and authorize the purchasing authority to enter into the proposed contract with MetroCog for April 2020 aerial flyover being performed by Pictometry International Corporation to provide all labor, equipment, and all else necessary for spring 2020 aerial flyover event in the amount not to exceed $17,604.77. Funding for this contract is available, and then the account number is listed. Do I have a motion?
I'll move the item. Sorry if I'm supposed to know this, but can someone explain what this one is to me?
And I'll second the item, by the way.
Sorry.
I can
no problem.
But I thought Mr. Murray, our tax assessor, was joining us, but I understand what it is if you'd like me to. Ross, are you on the line?
I mean, is it what it sounds like, just so they can do what they need to do to move forward with the whole, this is... Yes. Okay.
And this is through the Greater Bridgeport Regional Planning Agency. The MetroCog is the organization that's going to sign on behalf of all the municipalities hiring this company to perform those tasks.
Okay.
And provide the information online. There are license agreements, et cetera, but it's all towards the reassessment that's being done this year.
Okay.
So, Jim, the MetroCog, just to make sure I understand completely, this is included within the assessor's already pre-approved budget for 2020, and this is to go to contract to have they've negotiated an agreement through MetroCog to have this one firm handle all of these different towns, and then this information gets forwarded to our valuation firm that will actually do the work. Am I understanding it correctly?
That is correct. Yep.
And you've reviewed the contract. I'm sure this went through MetroCog, but our town has also reviewed this contract as well.
Yes, and it's in your backup. There are several different agreements about online access licensing and licenses to the pictures and the information, but the answer is yes.
And this all went to this has all been vetted, and our valuation firm can use this information. They don't have an issue with it. I know you're not the tax assessor, so my apologies for putting you in that position.
No, I'm familiar with the situation. That's absolutely correct. That is the purpose.
Yeah, thank you.
Any further discussion?
None for me, Nancy.
Okay.
I'm all good.
I'm seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Item number 12. To hear and consider and authorize the purchasing authority to enter into a proposed contract with Cisco LLC New Haven for soil remediation services at Site 3, Osborne Hill Elementary School, Site 4, Mill Hill Elementary School, Site 5, Sunset Avenue, Site 6, Old Dam Road Tennis Facility, Site 7, Southport Beach, to provide all labor, equipment, and all necessary to perform the soil remediation services at these sites as detailed in bid 2020-65 for the total amount not to exceed $240,599.75, with additional authority to execute change orders to said contract in the amount not to exceed $50,000. Combined total amount not to exceed $290,599.75. Funding for this contract is available in account, and then the numbers listed. Do I have a motion?
I'll move the item. I'll second it, Nancy.
Thank you, Nancy. Just I was saying earlier, I felt it was important. This was actually the reason I wanted to have the meeting, was to get this on the agenda, these items, because I felt we should be doing this work while the children weren't there, and just, get most of this stuff done, and give some work to these people, especially in this time, and it needs to be done anyway, as long as they can perform it safely. So I had asked Brian Carey to get those RFPs, ready for this agenda so we could get going.
So,
Great.
A, thank you for moving forward with this. B, I agree with the rationale behind it, and I think it's absolutely appropriate to do this when others aren't around, to the extent that we, are in accordance with all the other regulations related to the COVID situation. Quick question, and Nancy, I hope I didn't cut you off. My apologies if I did.
Nope.
The funding for this, I note that it says that this is funded in a specific account. Does the Board of Finance need to do anything to move additional funding into this account, or is this from the original amount that they had moved over quite some time ago? And if so, where does this fund balance stand after utilization of these funds?
This is Tom Brimmer. I'm just listening in. As far as these remediation efforts, this is part of the money that was already moved over by the Board of Finance.
Yeah.
So I don't.
Yeah, because there was. I thought there was an original fund of like $1.4 million that they had moved over or something, and then there was another amount that was held in abeyance, really in contingency, that was earmarked for this. And I don't know whether this is for coming from the funds, Tom. This is my question. It sounds like it's coming from that original tranche of funds that was moved over. But I also know that there was some discussion at a recent Board of Finance meeting about needing to move over that second tranche soon, and I don't know if that was done. So I don't know where this stands. I obviously want to move forward with it, but I just don't know if the funding is already in place or if there needs to be another action by the Board of Finance.
No, I think my understanding is that all the money that the Board of Finance had put aside has already been moved over, that there's no money remaining.
No, that's not true.
Okay,
that's not true.
Okay. Well, if there's more money that the Board of Finance is sitting on, that would be great to go and get that from them, and I will look into it.
Brian Carey, you remember this, right? There was the, assuming you're still on, there was several million.
So we did ask for all of the remaining amount to be moved over, the 1.8. So this would be the balance of that money.
But that hasn't been moved over yet. It's still sitting.
No, it has been.
No, it was moved
over.
So
I went to them twice. First was for an authorization of $800,000. They approved They approved $1.8 million, up to $800,000, and then I went back again and asked for the remaining amount of the money, and they did move that over. So this would be that remaining amount.
Right, and then there was another 2-point-something million that was put into contingency, of which they had said, we're going to put this over here to the extent that you need more from that, is the way I remember it. But that, we're not dipping into that set of funds yet.
No.
This is all part of the
so this is the original $1.8 million that we asked for back in, I think it was November or October timeframe.
Right. So now that's depleted after this movement. This pretty well wipes that out, or comes pretty darn
correct.
Close. Is that a fair statement? Yeah.
That is correct.
So that other remediation efforts coming down the pike will have to come from either the transfer of that other funds from contingency or for some other other way to be paid. Correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you. That was a good clarification. I'd love to see that kind of stepped out, but I appreciate that, Brian. Thank you.
Any other questions?
None for me.
Thank you.
Mr. Baldwin, I assume that all these vendors and all the bonds are in place and everything's been under your review for contractual purposes for this cleanup?
The latter is true as far as the bonds being in place, as you know from previous discussions.
Yeah.
That actually takes place after this is formalized. That's correct. But it is all set up for that to happen, absolutely.
And has this been worked with? I know you guys hired outside counsel on the environmental issues. Has this been reviewed by them? They know what's going on here, and everybody's in agreement.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll let Brian speak to that, but I think his answer is yes. This is Attorney Baldwin.
Okay. Brian, is there anything we need to know about this, or is this all in alignment with what the town's been doing?
I don't know if Brian's still on, but I know talking with outside counsel.
Yes.
Go ahead, Brian.
Please identify.
Correct. I'm sorry. This is all in alignment with what the town's been doing. It's been a methodical process to move these sites to remediation. The ones that we're doing now have been fully investigated. The plans are at the DEP. We're just waiting for consensus from them, and then we'll move forward as quickly as possible. So we're kind of getting towards the end of those sites that require remediation.
Got it. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Mr. Bremer, for jumping in.
Any further discussion?
No, thanks.
We have all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item number 13, to consider and act upon tax refunds as recommended by the tax collector in the amount of $56,410.83. Do I have a motion?
So moved. It's Nancy.
Seconded.
Any discussion?
I'm good.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay. So we are up to our COVID response.
I think we need to revisit 7 and 8, Madam First.
Oh, right. I'm sorry. You're right. Brian, did you and Gerald work that out, or?
Yeah, so I apologize. It is a Scribner error. So 7 is the numbers in the contractors are right. It's just the project description is not correct. So under 7, Kovacs Construction Corporation, where it says force main replacement in the agenda, that should actually say pump station replacement.
Okay, but are the names of the companies right or no?
Yes, the names and the companies are right. The name of the company and the amount is correct. It's just so where it says force main replacement in item 7, agenda item 7, it should say pump station replacement, and vice versa for 8.
So, Jim, how would we rectify this?
I think that's a true Scrivener's error, and we'll correct the agenda, and it will be properly reflected.
Must we do anything more than that, or is there any other action?
I don't believe so.
Okay. All right, very good.
Sorry for the confusion. I just wanted to bring it to your attention before we went too far down the line.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Okay, so we are in item number 14, update on the town's COVID-19 response. By the way of background, the town activated the Emergency Operations Center on Friday, March 13th. Since then, the command team has been working around the clock to put protocols in place to protect the town from community transmission during this pandemic. I declared a state of emergency for the town on March 16th. We then proceeded to close our parks and beaches and encourage residents to avoid gathering in those spaces. Today, our police department is moving from encouragement to enforcement action, which will include fines to residents who enter all closed spaces. Local media outlets will be running reports all day today to help inform our citizens. We also did a code red call yesterday to inform residents that went out to 58,000 phone numbers, including 12,600 text messages and 9,000 emails. Currently, in the town of Fairfield, We are up to 81 cases, including 4 deaths. Yesterday it was 70. So this is obviously a highlighted item. And the health director, Sands Cleary, advises that modeling shows we will see a peak of COVID-19 activity in our community on or about April 15th. We are in the acceleration phase of this pandemic, and the medical community expects overwhelming demands will be placed on our healthcare system and our healthcare providers during the coming weeks. The town is engaged in regular calls with grocery stores, funeral directors, the governor's office, other municipal leaders, as well as local clergy. We've had 3 meetings a week with the command staff, which includes critical department heads and emergency management staff. We also have critical team members from the police and fire and health departments and my administration that speak 3 times a week to coordinate messaging and make sure everyone is on the same page. Social Services is providing many resources, including meal deliveries to homebound seniors and a friendly caller program to residents feeling isolated. They are also partnering with Operation Hope for a mobile food pantry. Hopefully tomorrow, we will launch a Fairfield COVID-19 Relief Fund and begin accepting donations as well as applications for residents eligible for relief. As far as the town finances go, I have asked our staff to prepare some information on where we stand, which we sent to you. Does anyone have any questions or?
Well, first and foremost, this is Nancy Lefkowitz. I just want to say thank you for everything that you are doing and your emergency management team. I think you've done a really excellent job informing us as a community and making people feel safe and that you've got it under control. So that is my first and foremost comment. And then we'll have I have a couple of questions, but
yes.
Tom, do you want to?
Yeah, thanks, Nance. First of all, I wanted to commend yourself as well as the emergency management team for their efforts throughout this. It's a lot going on. It's uncharted territory. I think the communication has been crisp and clear. The ask of the public has been well documented and well conveyed. So my congratulations on all of that to date. Difficult situation, and I appreciate that everybody's been working hard through it.
Thank you. And I think Chief McCarthy is on the line.
Yes, I am.
Okay, Chief McCarthy's on the line. I just want to say, for the record, I say it to him every day, but I want to say for the record to all our citizens and to both of you on the Board of Selectmen that Chief McCarthy has been an amazing director of emergency operations, and he is amazingly helpful in leading the way along with me, and I can't imagine how we would be getting through this without his expertise. And Sands Cleary, our health director, who has been just working all of us, but really the health department has had a huge strain on the department, and they have risen to the challenge every single time. They're here on the weekends. They're working on nights. We're all on phones on the weekends. They're amazing. And so hats off to our emergency operations team and all the hard work that everyone is putting in. And I would say, I think the biggest message, and Chief McCarthy can jump in after and highlight some of this stuff, but I think the chief message here for all of us, I'm requesting from both of you and both of you on the Board of Selectmen to any way you can possibly share this message far and wide. Everything that we're sharing through my First Selectwoman page and our town page about the absolute necessity, the absolute crucial nature of this situation and how it is imperative that our community do this together. Because if we're not all doing it together, then it's not going to work. And frankly, the reports I received over the weekend, repeated nonstop reports where I had to constantly be in contact with emergency operations and with law enforcement about how some of our citizens were blatantly tearing down blockades at parks, stealing our signs, trespassing on property that is clearly closed, and putting themselves and everyone around them in complete danger doing that. It's just stunning to me. And so I hope that I can count on both of you to help get the message out that this is completely unacceptable, and this is not a game. This is a real-life situation, a national health emergency, a pandemic, which most people, you would think the word pandemic would be all anyone needs to hear. But again, we have residents who are calling and emailing scared that they are trying their hardest to do the right thing and looking out their window or riding their bike by a park and seeing what's going on, or at the lake or at the beach, and they're just terrified that people aren't taking this seriously. So that's why our law enforcement had decided today to spring into enforcement action. They're very frustrated, and obviously we should not be having our law enforcement putting themselves in harm's way because people can't stay home and make sure they do their civic responsibility. And Chief McCarthy, if you'd like to weigh in.
On a couple of things. Certainly the strength of the team, and the credit goes to the dozens of town employees from fire, police, DPW, economic development, other municipal departments, the IT department, certainly the health department leading all of our discussions really is what makes any success that we have in reducing the level of transmission and the number of cases in Fairfield possible. And those people do their work, and they don't get any recognition. They absolutely deserve it, and it's literally dozens of employees from all those departments. In particular, I want to point out that the clear vision that Sans Cleary has brought to this began on February 27th when he organized the first mitigation work group for the town of Fairfield. And things accelerated rapidly. As the first selectwoman said, that the emergency management team was activated less than 2 weeks after that, and in another couple of days, the state of emergency was declared. You remember we made early decisions to close schools, recreation spaces, after-school activities, in the hope that we would be able to keep schools open for a while. It was clear very quickly that that would be counter to the overarching mission of reducing the transmission of the virus, and significant sacrifices have been made by many of our, almost all of our residents, I'm sure, are sacrificing their own personal interests to help the town be successful in our response. The way the emergency management team is activated, we have a command staff. As First Selectman said, we were meeting every day. Now it's every other day. We're participating in conference call with the governor on Mondays and Fridays. There is an active public information team that includes the Selectmen staff, Jackie Bertolone, as well as fire department, police department, health department. They coordinate messaging for clarity and consistency. Our operations unit is responsible for maintaining emergency services primarily, but other services in town, and to check on trends and trend lines for response as well as absenteeism. We're very fortunate that particularly police, fire, and AMR, who we collaborate with and coordinate with, all have very low response loads right now and high attendance levels. So we are in a very good shape there. Our planning unit is responsible for looking a couple of days ahead or weeks ahead, determine what it is we need to be doing tomorrow and next week, and making plans for that so we are positioned when circumstances change. Mark Barnhart has been a big part of that in coordinating with the private sector. As you know, some of our major challenges have been helping the public find commodities like food, meats, perishables, as well as paper products and cleaning supplies. We have a conference call with the grocery stores. Our third will occur tomorrow afternoon under Mark Barnhart's leadership. We have a logistics section that is responsible for sourcing all of the material that we might need, particularly in PPE. We have a town of Fairfield centralized personal protective equipment warehouse operation. Warehouse makes it sound like there's a lot, but we are centralizing our PPE at the fire school and helping every department, as well as some critical needs in the communities like healthcare providers and our assisted living and nursing homes source PPE and doing that in a coordinated way so we are not duplicating efforts. And our finance unit, as the Selectmen also noted, we are making sure we're tracking every expense that could be associated with our response because we have received a presidential declaration and we want to be prepared to submit for reimbursement at the appropriate time. We currently have 8 priorities, and the first is to reduce the transmission of the virus by physical distancing, and some of the efforts by the police department are ongoing in that regard regarding many of our public spaces, but it also includes the public messaging. We want to maintain our emergency services capacity, which I spoke about earlier, support services to at-risk populations, and the Senior Center has been the lead on that, and we've supported that with resources and collaboration with Operation Hope, as well as our CERT team assisting senior services with some of those functions. We're supporting medical facilities in town with guidance and emergency resource needs. We have kept municipal services in the various departments operating, mostly by work-from-home activities. The IT department worked tirelessly, for a week straight, making sure that those that needed laptop computers to work from home had the ability to do that. So we're able to keep all of our municipal services operating, and we have less than 20% of our municipal workforce coming in to Town Hall or Old Town Hall sporadically to keep those systems working. But there are some essential municipal services outside of emergency response that are really important. We're coordinating with the business community, again, through economic development to assist them in processing some of the financial aid opportunities. We are standing up donations management that will begin tomorrow. And recently we began through social services and Julie DeMarco and her staff coordination with our mental health providers and the Clergy Association because of the strain and anxiety that this pandemic has caused in the community, and that is one of the lasting effects that residents, once we get to a point that we reopen services, businesses, some of those mental health challenges linger on, so we want to make sure that we're ahead of that. But all of that can only be done, one, with good leadership from the top, and I appreciate the First Selectwoman's leadership for our team, but also the dozens of people doing work behind the scenes to make all of that possible that deserve all of the credit for any success that we have. And with that, I'm available for questions.
Well, that is excellent and thorough, and I want to also say thank you. This is Nancy Lefkowitz. Thank you for the emails that you've been sending out to members of boards and commissions and town leadership. They've been really helpful. It's been a helpful tool to be able to share the information in them, and message received that the thing we can do to be the most helpful is to model good behavior of staying home, and also just sharing the information that you've shared with us. I do have 2 questions, and one I'm almost embarrassed to ask given everything that you're saying, but it's come my way. For people that live on or near the beach, can you just clarify, does that mean that they personally, with these closures, should not walk on the beach? And I'm sorry to ask it, but it's been asked of me. Yes, the beach is closed. I'll answer that. The beach is closed, and the police department is enforcing that enclosure. Okay.
The public beach, the municipal beaches.
Okay. Message received. I will pass that on. And then of particular interest to many people, as I think it does tap into, from the planning perspective, and it taps into that mental health piece that you were just addressing. I think one thing that's been very difficult for people rightly so, is to understand the kind of with no end, or seemingly, there's no end. Is there anything that you're hearing from your sources, from the health departments or what have you, or just modeling on, are you modeling, is the planning going that far out? Like, what does a phase 2 look like? Or are you just really not there yet and not ready to even share any of those thoughts?
When you say phase 2, a second wave? A second wave, or phase 2 of this phase?
Not phase 2. It's just been referred to that in the news, for instance, like what it looks like when this kind of intense acute period does pass. Like, what does a reentry look like for people? What does, because we're not going back to business, completely as normal.
I think I understand your question. I appreciate, because it is important to look forward. There is no model to guide us other than 1918 and the pandemic and the experience, the great comparison that exists between the city of Philadelphia and St. Louis. Philadelphia did not do the types of social distancing or physical distancing that we are recommending across the country right now. And they had a very high peak, and they overwhelmed their medical resources. The city of St. Louis in that same pandemic had strict physical distancing and non-medical interventions. And they had a very shallow curve and was able to keep the demands on their medical system or meet the demands of their medical system. That experience demonstrated in St. Louis in particular, they relaxed some of their requirements early, and they saw a resurging peak. So we want to be very careful, and certainly Ken Clary is much better to answer this question than I. But I have listened to him carefully and read the research about that pandemic, and we want to be very careful on returning to any degree of normalcy because doing it too soon could create a resurgence in infection rates. So we'll take this one step at a time. This is clearly not following any scripted path or with any good opportunity to follow previous experience other than what occurred 100 years ago. So we're following the data very closely and make those decisions based on recommendations from the CDC, the State Health Department, and certainly our local health director.
Okay. Right, and Nancy, SANS has, obviously, like Chief McCarthy says, this is a whole new world for everybody. But based just on modeling and what SANS is sharing and what the CDC shares with us, is that, you look at Italy and they didn't crank it down, and they had that explosion. So that's what we're trying to do. Look at New York. Now we're here. So he's saying the next 2 to 3 weeks are going to be the crucial time, peaking on the 15th. And if everybody stops tearing down barriers and, acting like we're not in the midst of a pandemic, we may hopefully get through this. But again, that's why it's so crucially important for everyone in our community to be doing the same thing, taking it seriously. So they're saying something like, we just canceled when we did our department head meeting that any events in May are not going to be happening. So we're not looking at events in May. So we're hoping that this curve goes down and that people can reemerge somewhere, at the end of May. But we don't really know. It really depends on the actions of our community. And they're also saying that if, this thing, CDC professionals saying this thing could potentially coming back in the fall in a different way or a similar way, and then again coming back in next spring. So,
even hearing you say that the town has canceled some events through May, I think that's an important benchmark for people to understand, because I think it's just the uncertainty for everybody, obviously, and
right.
So just to give
and we're trying to get that
chunks. Yeah, of course. course.
We're trying to get that message out in the newsletters, this is going on for the next several weeks, and every bit of information we get, we share, in the newsletter and try to be proactive about it. Obviously, we'll see how this week goes. Our numbers really jumped significantly in one day, which is concerning. And I have been repeatedly asking the governor to put stricter guidelines on the grocery stores statewide, stricter guidelines throughout the state so that, we don't have towns doing this piecemeal thing. I'm doing something, this one's doing something. It would be so much better if we were all doing the same. But, we will keep sharing the message of our concern with the governor, and we will again tonight during our conference call, that we'd like more uniform standards. I asked the grocery stores, I don't have the authority, but I asked them when we met with them almost a month ago if they would shut their stores and do curbside pickup and a delivery only. Obviously, I don't have the authority to make them do that, but I would prefer to see that because I think a number of our residents are worried about even going into grocery stores. So there's a lot that I think could be done to protect our community. All I can do is keep asking people to stay in and stay home, and ask our governor to set some uniform standards for the rest of us, the whole state, so we're all on the same page.
So Brenda, it's Tom. At the risk of sounding redundant to you and the chief and all that, first of all, I'm very comfortable that you all are doing everything within your power to keep everybody safe, and there's a certain amount of personal accountability and responsibility has to go into this, and it's not just for people's own protection, but it's for the protection for the greater community at large. So thank you very much for that. And as you have throughout, you've got my continued support, and I know I speak for Nancy, and I've seen her postings as well, that her continued support to carry the flag and push the message locally as we're online and what have you. I did want to turn to something else, if I might, which is there's really two crises going on. There's certainly the most acute and what's well aware is the health crisis, and that's got to be paramount in everybody's mind. The second crisis that is festering and is really occupying a lot of my time professionally right now is the economic crisis that this is all causing. And I know that the budget process is about to restart, and I think that's great, and I think it's right that the Board of Finance and the RTM get to vote on this budget, and it's a little bit of a different world than it was when we passed that budget a few weeks ago. The other thing that's acute on my mind is, the pressures, obviously, of the taxpayer and the pressures of our citizens financially is becoming a bear, and I'm just working with a client now that's looking at a significant reduction in force. So I'm feeling it every day as I work through that with them. I looked at the operating information that was forwarded just a couple hours ago for the town, which is the update for where we stand to date. And it's really a view, and I hope it gets shared on the website because it was sent to Nancy and I and yourself just, I think, an hour ago or so. It shows a couple things. Number one, it shows that we were operating in a significant surplus for the vast majority of this year, and that's diminished greatly within the last probably 6 weeks. The information is dated 3/27, and it shows that we're starting to eat into the contribution, if I'm reading it correctly. And Tom Bremer, please tell me if I'm wrong. But it's showing that we're reducing the contribution of fund balance this year, whereas before we were projected to add more to the fund balance than budgeted. Now I think the projection, because of what's going on, it's supposed to add less by about $250,000. Do I have that right, Tom?
Yeah, that's correct. But I would also point out that 1080 is still sufficient to keep us at 11,282.
Oh, I'm not talking about. See, here's the thing. Right now, I'm not worried about the exact number. I don't think that number's up to date right now. I just heard the first select woman say that we're going to cancel a whole bunch of stuff in May, and a lot of that number is supported by if we restart things as of May 1st, and it doesn't sound like we're going to.
Yeah, but I don't think those numbers are that. We've been very aggressive with our estimates. And so,
Okay.
although I think you're referring to Anthony's number, which is 541. We moved it to 550. I mean, even if he doesn't start in May, and we do need to update these numbers from him, if he moves it to May 15th or June 1st, you know, I'll get the updated numbers and that sort of thing. But I don't think, if I look at his numbers really quick, I don't think the number is going to be that much different. But go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think you've got a difference there. I think you'll probably have, the thing that's not in here is any additional costs related to COVID, anything for the police, anything for the fire, anything for the health department that we might incur on that is not estimated. And the other big hole here is obviously the Board of Education and what their what their latest estimates are. Now, I do know the governor came out with a proclamation there related to their staffs and what they're supposed to do with their salaries. So I just ask that we get, for the other town bodies and stuff, a holistic view of where this stands right now, because I don't want to just pass the buck on this, and I think it's important that, you know, you guys have to focus, at least Brenda and the emergency management team has to focus on the health of the town, but we also can't take our eye off of the financial pressures that are going to really impact our residents if we're not careful here relative to
I
this
think
year,
just to add to
the
that,
budget.
Yeah, just to add to that, my mantra has been that whatever bad impacts there are going to be on the town, and undoubtedly there will be, you know, the Board of Ed now controls 2/3 of the overall budget. So if there's a hole that we need to fill, 2/3 of it is their hole. But sometimes I think I'm sorry?
So with that comment, they obviously, a large chunk of their expense is the personnel expense, and they're now going to be hamstrung by the governor's stipulation to do anything on personnel expenses. I understand it, and I know, or I believe they're concerned, and I don't want to go down a rabbit hole here, but I know they're also concerned of whatever is their requirement relative to special education requirements that they're going to have to make up either, you know, before June 30th or after June 30th. So I just don't know what their financial picture looks like right now. It'd be great to get that. So have you asked for that for the remainder of 2020? Do we have a view on that yet?
No, I don't have a view. We've asked for it, but we don't have a view yet because they haven't provided it to us yet.
Yeah, I think we just need to know where we stand holistically, particularly as we go into the budget for 2021. I think that's very important, and that we give them an idea of the contingency planning. So
right.
Thank you.
Tom, just so you know, I mean, I get updates from the finance department regularly, and, you know, obviously things are changing every day. I mean, everyone's doing their best, and we are supplying information. The finance department is supplying information to the Board of Finance, who then has to make it, they're the ones who have a vote on this, and I have offered myself repeatedly. I'm available to them at all times. Anytime they need to call me, talk to me, participate, ask me any questions, and work with me and the Finance Department. As I stressed to the members of the Board of Finance and as well as to the RTM leadership, that we need to all work together. And this is a strange circumstance, obviously. Meetings, I personally think we need to be looking at the big pictures, and that whatever happens, that they're cautious and not to correct, because obviously everyone will go home after they vote, and I'll be here running a town. So with whatever's left.
Yeah, so Brenda, I get that, and I understand, and I've talked with Mr. Brown about the information. What I've been given, which I can only assume, and I got this an hour and a half ago, is the most current projections are dated 3/27, don't have anything from the Board of Ed, right? And as I said, say that things will be open as of May 1st. So all I'm saying is that the information just needs to be updated. The rest of your comments, unless I don't have the most current information, the rest I completely agree with. And I think look, it's going to be a tough road to hoe for the Board of Finance and the RTM, and I'll support in any way that I can. But I just like to know where we're going to stand. That's all. So
Right, and again,
the health has to
the
be the
board-
primary concern.
Right, the Board of Finances, has 100% access to the Finance Department, and and the Board of Ed. I've spoken to the Board of Ed, but I know Mr. Brown has been in communication with the Board of Ed as well. So hopefully
Right.
those conversations are going to be enlightening or helpful. And so we're
Right.
all, we're all in this together. We all have to figure out a way to move our town in a direction during a situation that none of us have ever experienced, and just try to do the best we can to maintain some semblance of a government.
Agreed.
All right.
Agreed. Well, I thank you, and I look forward to future updates on this. So, and to the chief and yourself and the entire management crew, thanks for all your efforts on keeping the community safe. I think we're in good hands on this.
Thank you, Tom. Does anyone, Nancy, do you have anything?
No, just thanks again for everything.
And again, I just want to say, I'm available to either one of you anytime. If you have questions for me about anything at all, you have my cell phone number. I'm here. I'll answer. And I'm happy to give you any information that you about what we're doing or anything that's going on. But realistically, I am sharing pretty much everything that we're doing through our newsletter, so our community is informed, because I think it helps people. They feel more connected to our town, when they feel like they know what's going on. So sharing that is helpful. But again, anything you guys, if you just want to ask me a question about anything, feel free to give me a call.
Thank you.
Okay.
Stay healthy, because we need you. We need you.
I have a face mask on. I took it off for a minute. I couldn't breathe.
Yeah. So all right, you got to go to another meeting, right?
All right. Thank you.
We have a command meeting.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, thank you both. Wait a minute. Where's my agenda?
We got to adjourn.
Adjourn, yes. And let's see. Okay, so a motion to adjourn.
So
moved.
I'll second
All right.
it.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Aye. I miss
All
you guys.
Thank you. Thank you, Brenda.
Good luck. We'll talk.
All right, take care. Bye-bye.